everyone, and welcome back to She Means Business. I'm your host, Jordan Harrington. In this show, we highlight women making big moves in their fields from marketing to medicine and everything in between. Today, I'm so excited to sit down with Annette Fritts, Director of Sales in the Endourology Division at Boston Scientific. We'll be talking about her career journey, lessons in leadership, and what it means to thrive as a woman in the healthcare industry. Let's jump right in. Hi, Annette. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jordan. Great, great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. So, first things first, can you tell the listeners a little about your role at Boston Scientific and what does your division focus on?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I'm a director of sales for one of our many business units here at Boston Scientific Urology. We focus on kidney stone disease. So, hopefully, you and none of the listeners ever have to be a patient of ours, but there are quite a few out there that suffer from kidney stones. So,
Hmm.
we are in the operating rooms, assisting surgeons and nurses and clinicians to treat patients effectively with the products that we sell.
Awesome. So, what actually drew you to the medical industry and how did you find your way into sales leadership?
Yeah, great question. So I started out actually in college as a pharmacy major. I loved chemistry in high school, which is probably kind of, sick to some people because it puts you through your paces, but
Hmm.
loved the idea of being a pharmacist and, finding a way to help people and give back. It is not what ended up happening. I ended up changing my major before I even started in pharmacy to a business degree. I had taken a job with State Farm kind of towards the end of high school, starting in college, just, sort of filing papers and doing administrative work. And I saw sort of the lifestyle that those folks got to do with interacting with other people every day and, and in
Hmm.
their way, making life better for others. So I thought, man, I'm not really a behind the counter kind of person. I'd like to be out and social. And that
Hmm.
kind of drew me to take a business turn in college. I went to Duquesne, which is in Pittsburgh, but then after that, kind of just kept on with certain business roles. I found myself in the oil and gas industry for about 7 years out of college as a field sales associate, and then I worked up to have my own book of accounts. But I still kind of had that longing for, man, I would like to get closer to patients. I kind of never lost that desire.
Hmm.
So somebody had introduced me to the thought of, med tech sales and, was like, hey, you'd probably be good. You'd probably find it, it's very rewarding. It's high pace, high energy. So I found my way to Boston Scientific specifically. I had interviewed at a few other companies, didn't feel like the culture was a match for me, but um, here I felt very much like, okay, these are people I want to work with. This is work I want to do, and super meaningful. And it's been a really rewarding career. And as years pass by, things change and evolve, and I ended up going from territory manager when I first started, now into this director position with a bunch of other roles in between. So it's been a ride, but a good one.
That that's awesome. So, like you said, you've had a lot of different roles throughout your career. How did each step kind of prepare you for where you are today? And has there been any learning opportunities across those roles?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, sometimes you have to make yourself really humble when you start into a new job in a new industry, right? Like, or it humbles you, I guess I should say. So I had made this step out of like oil and gas into med tech, and some things always apply, right? Like your
Hmm.
ability to connect with people, your integrity, the way that you handle yourself, the way that you operate, like those things are already set, so you have those checked. But the learning curve of being in an operating room very different than being, in a boardroom with talking about petrochemicals, for example. So
Yeah.
that was new for me, and you kind of came out of that situation where it was like, man, I knew what I was doing. I was the master of what I, knew. People came to me, and now
Hmm.
here I am, sort of low woman on the totem pole again, where I had to learn from everybody else and just really be like, okay, like pretend you're a student again, you're back in school and you're just trying to be a sponge and absorb as much as you can.
Hmm.
Um, but that was that was a lesson that I learned. Like, okay, not just because you have experience somewhere doesn't mean it always, completely transfers. So be vulnerable, be humble, like take that
Yeah.
learning opportunity when you can. And then I would say it's funny because if you ask my husband, he would tell you that I'm not risk adverse, but I would tell you I am. However, through my career, like moves that I made and opportunities that I went for, um, they didn't feel risky to me. But looking back, I'm like, oh, whoa, some of those were, changing companies, coming back, changing divisions of what type of products we're selling for what diseases. And
Hmm.
all of that has really helped to round out my skill set. I'm still learning every single day. Like, trust me, I'm still in that like learning mode. And
Hmm.
I tell people, tell me like I'm 5 years old. Like explain this to me in a way I understand, because so this thing's really complicated. But um, that bit of risk taking and not being, we're all kind of nervous when we make a change, but
Hmm.
kind of thinking to yourself, hey, I learned it before, I can learn it again. I have all these great people around me who I trust that can teach. That's been really impactful. So I would say like that humility and then that ability to take some risk, has really helped me. It's taught me a lot through the
Yeah,
years.
yeah, 100%. Has there been any certain mindsets that have helped you in kind of advancing in your career? Because it can be such a very competitive and fast-paced environment.
Yeah, yeah. So I think forming honest relationships with other people, that are authentic, and you continue to ask questions even if you feel like maybe you should know the answer. Just being transparent and vulnerable and
Hmm.
authentic with people has been something I always keep in my mind. I don't like to show up pretending I know everything, or fake it till you make it kind of thing. Like, that's not my style. I
Hmm.
sort of lean into that, a bit of what we just talked about. Help me figure this out, and then you come up with your own ideas. But mindset for sure. I mean, and it's totally different when you're brand new in a role, because you're kind of like, I can do this. They hired me for a
Hmm.
reason. I am qualified. I can sit at this table and have a good opinion. I am teaching people things too.
Hmm.
I've had plenty of those moments where I'm like kind of just convincing myself, right?
Yeah.
But and then on other sides of things, when you're kind of used to your role, the other mindset is, am I giving back enough? Am
Hmm.
I helping other people around me the way that others have helped me? And I love that, especially like in a women centric mindset of like, who leaned back and reached their arm out and helped me pull me up, like as a woman leader, and how can I
Hmm.
do that for others? I think that is something I always consider in my mind as we try to keep each other empowered and moving forward. um, so I think those are probably, two things, like, okay, I can do this, like reassurance of
Yeah.
yourself, you're here for a reason, and the other part is like, am I doing enough for those around me, as others have done. So,
Yeah, definitely. So, kind of as a sales director, how would you define effective leadership and how has your leadership style evolved over the years?
yeah, it's definitely evolved. It's still evolving. I think we're always trying to, keep up and perfect certain things that we want to improve upon. I think that, you know, I used to, I was funny. I was just telling about somebody about this the other day. Like, I used to like really rush to decision making. Like, I need an answer right now. I'm an elder millennial, so I'm not a younger millennial, but I still have that kind of mindset of like, I need to get back to you right away. I have to reply to this right now. Like, I want this off my list. I don't know, Jordan, if you make lists and check
Hmm.
things off like I do, but for a lot of years, that was always like my mode. And I would say over the last 3 to 4 years, I've had some great mentors that have taught me,
Hmm.
slow down, think about it, sleep on it, maybe sleep 2 nights on it, and
Yeah.
then respond, don't react. So that's something I've taken to heart and has made me a much better leader, even if your own guts are like churning because you're like, I want to get this off my plate. But boy, those moments where I've like, calm down, like my 2-year-old says, breathe up, breathe down, take time and then come back to that situation, you really do have a different lens and can come up with more creative ideas, better ideas, more collaborative ideas. So that's one. And then the other thing I would say is I have really tried to become a much better listener than I am
Mm,
talker, which isn't a great example because you have me talking here for a while, but that has changed the way that I lead entirely. I
mm-hmm.
used to, and it's sort of along the same vein, like I used to really just want to give you the answer, really just want to come and solve the solution. But now it's like, no, listen to the whole story,
Mm-hmm.
listen to all of the highs, the lows, the in betweens. And I think that really builds a lot of trust with people. People want to work with and for people that they trust more than anything else. And I don't think there's a faster way to trusting than being a good active listener. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Kind of within your team, has there been any like strategies that you use to motivate or support them, especially through high pressure sales?
Yeah, I mean, I have like specifically the team that I have now is phenomenal. I couldn't have handpicked a better group of human beings to work with. So they don't need a ton of motivation from me. I wouldn't say. Sales is rather self-motivating,
Mm-hmm.
just by the nature of the business. But I would say employing that listening, problem-solving nature has one created a better relationship because they know, hey, you're not just here with corporate information. You're not just here to tell us
Mm-hmm.
to fall in line. Like, I really do want to listen, absorb, and then try to help because that is our job as leaders is to get the red tape and the blocking out of the way so that our
Mm-hmm.
teams can go be effective and serve our patients where I live, where you live, and worldwide more effectively. So
Yeah, of course. So, kind of switching the topic a little bit, is there any advice that you would give to any young women that are looking to pursue a similar position as you?
yeah. Yes, lots of advice. One, um, whether you have it on your own or you need to work on it, um, that confidence. You are smart, you are brave, you are strong, you are all these things. I think, and
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this just even with folks in my extended family. Their college is really tough, and it's harder than it even was when I was there. Very competitive. You guys have a ton more
Mm-hmm.
sports now and teams and all these other like it's not just competitive academically, you're in all these other activities. So
Yeah.
just to like be cautious of how you're comparing yourself, be cautious of how you're talking to yourself. I know
Mm-hmm.
you're in highly like high pressure environments, but you deserve to be there. Comparing yourself to others is just gonna that's never gonna make you feel good about yourself. You've got to find that deep down, that self-worth and all that confidence that you have every right, just as everybody else does, to go out and do whatever you want to do and be a
Mm-hmm.
raving success. So I think like especially as women, we're our own worst critics. And we
Yeah.
have this completely different interpretation of what we are versus how other people see us. And I would just urge you and anybody else listening, like, start thinking of yourself of how other people see you, not how you see yourself. And then and their impression doesn't matter, but I want everybody to know I guarantee it is much more positive than how you probably are talking to yourself. So find that, show up with it, practice it often, talk to yourself nicely, be careful what you're saying to yourself. Would you like a friend to say that to you? And if the answer is no, then don't say it to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
be nice. I also would say like, so that's more on the, I would like emotional front of yourself. I would say if you really want to get into med tech or like a sales environment, taking the right classes at your college is important. That can be helpful, but there's nothing better than real world experience. So if that can come in terms of an internship, if that can come in terms of, you know, shadowing somebody that you find on LinkedIn for a day in this industry. That's how a few of the people that work here got their jobs. They were just
Oh,
sort of like,
wow.
you know, they stalked somebody and they found them in their area and they're like, hey, I'd love to have coffee with you or shadow you for the day and see how things go. I would highly encourage that to make sure it's the right fit. It's just not the right fit because you think it's hard, right? Because you're like, I don't really know what those people do in any industry, you know, and if I would like it, but there's a lot more connections now than there were even 10 years ago to like go out and see a day
Yeah.
in the life of or talk with people or shadow them. Um,
Hmm.
and you know, sales is high pressure, can be high reward. It can also be the opposite of those things, right? Like where it's like, okay, I did everything in my power and it's still not. So it's a roller coaster. You kind of have to be okay with that.
Hmm.
And know that, all right, I have the ability to change things maybe the next time around. What did I learn and how would I adjust it? But in medtech in particular, we love some business to business sales experience, however that comes, or we do hire right out of college for certain roles, but
Hmm.
love to see some of that real world experience. And I don't even mean necessarily it has to be in a sales job, like, or an internship focused on sales. Like I just hired somebody the other day. I said, what did you do when you were 15, 16, 17 years old? I caddied at the golf club. I worked at Goodwill on the weekends. I cleaned dishes at the restaurant. You know, like those are meaningful to somebody like me because I want high work ethic. I want,
Yeah,
doesn't matter the hierarchy of the job, like you're willing to take it and do it and hustle, you know? So I hope that
definitely.
helps. I kind of tried to give you a balance of both, you know, self
Yeah.
self discussion and then experience discussion. So
Yeah. So, kind of like in your career and talking more about women in business, have you seen women support and empower each other in kind of med tech and sales fields?
yeah, absolutely. I'm really blessed. Like I work in an organization that is run mostly by women from the top down.
Oh, wow.
And they, and I would argue we have one of the best cultures in medtech in Boston Scientific Urology. And it's
Hmm.
thanks to those ladies who really established a transparent, collaborative, nobody, you know, it's impossible to ask a stupid question, like that sort of environment where you just feel really comfortable being yourself.
Hmm.
Um, so and then I've also seen them fight and work at the higher levels of the company to put things into place for new moms and shipping breast milk and taking extended leave and you know all the things that I'm sure you at your age, like that's far away in your head,
Hmm.
but it does, you know, years go by and you're like that stuff really matters to you. So I'm really proud to say I've seen the support, I have felt the support. That's what I was speaking of earlier. Like I try to, you know, pay that forward to
Yeah.
other young women coming through the organization. And out of the, you know, four mentors that I have, three are women here. So it's been a really great place for that. And you know, and I've led a few working groups with female surgeons as well through the years in different specialties. And we always rest on the same thing. Like if we're nice to each other, everything falls into place. But
Hmm.
that all starts with you feeling like you're enough. You're not competing with the other people at the table, right? Like we look out for each other's
Hmm.
best interests when we're very secure. Um,
Hmm.
you know, and that spans medicine, college,
Yeah.
business, like the whole gamut is like, hey, like just be good to each other, you know, and we'll win. We'll win together.
Yeah, so would you say since like the beginning of your like more early on in your career, have you seen like a lot of progress of kind of women in these type of industries?
Oh my goodness, yes, absolutely. I don't have like an exact statistic for you, but just from my you know, observation, when I walked into this industry like 10 or 11 years ago, it was probably 90% male
Mm,
reps and 10% female reps. And some of that is lifestyle driven, right? Like
Yeah.
Folks that are in like having children and things, like they don't want to get out, they don't want to leave their house at 4:30 in the morning to drive to an operating room at 6:30. Like
Yeah.
it's a lifestyle. It really is. But I've seen the company, and not just ours, I mean others too, like have made an effort to recruit more women, because even with some of those asterisks on, hey, I'm limited to do this or I'm limited to that, because we have many roles as women,
Hmm.
the value that we bring to this industry is incredible. So I've watched that kind of 9 out of 10 male rep scenario turn into more of like 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10 in certain business units that we have. And
Hmm.
it's been really, really cool to see. So,
Yeah, definitely. Do you think there's any role models or mentors that have shaped your approach to leadership throughout your career?
oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, I'd have to say my mom was my first like official mentor, which probably you and some of your listeners would agree with. Like, it starts with your parents, and it started
Yeah.
with watching her, you know, bust her butt, working 3 jobs, no college education, 4 kids. We grew up very like, inner city, and my dad was sick all the time. So like just kind of watching her hustle and grind and like just get to the next month and pay that next bill and like move on, but always with a very loving approach to her family. She never really let that stress show through to her
Yeah.
kids. So she was kind of like the first pioneer for me. Like, wow, you did it. And you don't realize that stuff till you're a little bit older. You're
A
like,
little
how did you
older.
do that?
Yeah.
Um, but as I've gone through my career, gosh, I've had so many different mentors. It's hard to like I don't even want to name them because I will miss 3 or 4 people. But through my time at in petrochemicals as a young, as a young woman, attaching to like our secretary there, Mary Ellen, who was she had no bearing on my career, but she sure did tell me, hey, here's the ground rules. Here's what you need to watch out for. Here's how to do this. Here's how to present yourself for that. Put your
Mhm.
shoulders back. Go to Macy's, and you need to buy yourself 3 suits. And you wrote, like that, very like a mom again,
Yeah.
but in a work environment. And then as I got into med tech, I really used my regional managers and then other women around me, that they would set me up with. I would proactively ask, like, do you have like a powerful female leader in mind? Or they would do it, on their own. So everybody from our president of sales to our vice president of sales to other divisions, uh, VPs and directors, I was well networked. And out of all of those women found so much value, so much confidence, and so much encouragement to like,
Mhm.
hey, don't stop here. You can do whatever you want to do. Like you have all the makings for it. And that's what just to go back to that point one more time, like sometimes that's what you need to hear from other people to start, believing that yourself.
Mhm.
So anyway, to answer your question, yes, I've been blessed all the way from my mom through people who were unassuming mentors, and then all the way to formalized, and they've really shaped my view of the world.
Yeah. So, for our final question today, how do you mean business? So, what drives your passion and purpose today?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I guess that I was worried that was going to be like a really hard question, but that's actually an easy question for me. So
Hmm.
patients drive my purpose. They do. That's why I work in this industry. It is why sometimes I work 12-hour days or 14-hour days, or I don't see my kids for a few days at a time for traveling. Um,
Hmm.
but it's because I know that there is a recipient that could be you, your brother, your uncle, my grandmother, there's somebody at the end of every single device we sell. And
Yeah.
so, and I believe in what we sell and that we improve patient care around the world. So that makes me super excited every day to go to work, even but like there's problems everywhere. You're not going to not find them, right? But it's our job to solve them. And it's our job to solve them because there's somebody depending on us from a surgeon perspective and a patient perspective with every single device that we sell. So I take that very seriously. And it's a privilege to do this, and it's a privilege to be, kind of part of that giving end to the person on the operating room table. So.
All right. Awesome. That wraps up this episode of She Means Business. A huge thank you to my wonderful guest for sharing her advice and experiences with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast for more stories from incredible women making their mark in the world of business. I'm your host, Jordan Harrington. Thank you again, Annette.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. This was lovely and a true honor. And um, if you ever need anything in the future, you know who to reach out to.
Of course. Thank you so much.